You are Locked On Angels Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
A solid start from Griffin Canning, a solid start for the Angels lineup, but you just knew in the first ever Locked On Angels Postcast that there was going to be some stress, there was going to be some late game chaos, and because of another bullpen struggle performance from the Halos, the Angels fall to Houston 6-5 in extra innings, and they now move to 1-1 against Houston in this road trip. What's going on, everybody? Halo hopefuls, Halo Nation. Welcome to the first ever installment episode of the Locked On Angels Postcast, here coming to you live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel, and of course after the fact both on the channel and on the Locked On Angels podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm sure you're very confused. Who the heck is talking to me? What the heck is a postcast? And what just happened in that game? Don't worry, we're going to get to all of it. First and foremost, who the heck am I? Hello, everybody. My name is Gavin Carlson. If you don't know who I am, I'm in my fourth year as a credentialed journalist in the Los Angeles area. Specifically, I've covered UCLA football, men's and women's basketball for the Daily Bruin, and I am now in my first year, of course, as the postcast host here on the Locked On Network, not only for the Angels, but down the line for the Rams, for UCLA football, and for the Los Angeles Lakers. And now what the heck is a postcast? Well, if you can't tell already, it is live, coming at you on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel directly after every single Angels game all season long. And it's going to be a good time every single time. Hopefully more wins, not a disappointing loss like we had tonight. But regardless of the outcome, every single night we're going to have fun here for 30 minutes. So please leave your comments. I can reply to you guys in the comment section, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Please make sure you hit that like button, leave comments, subscribe to this channel. We're going to grow the Angel community here every single day. Now, with all that being said, a lot to talk about on today's show. A very solid Griffin Canning start, spoiled by more bullpen struggles. We're certainly going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Angels lineup continuing to rely on the long ball for success. There's some crazy statistics coming into this game about the Angels and their slugging. But of course, it wasn't enough, not enough timely hitting. We will talk about that. And then at the end of the show, we will introduce a segment that will be a regular segment on this postcast, and that is Ron's report card, where I will grade the managerial performance of Ron Washington and, whether or not there should be hope going forward for our beloved Halos. Now, with all that being said, a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show, PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code in all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. One more time, use the code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, with all that being said, with the intro to the first ever Locked On Angels postcast, and with the sponsor read, it is time to talk about what was a heartbreaking loss for the Angels, I'll be honest. And it's hard because it's the first episode of this. I'm amped. Of course, a little nervous. You can probably hear my voice a little bit, but I'm excited because of this being the first postcast. But at the same time, it's hard to be excited about the way that game ended because when this game started, like I said, I thought this was going to be a solid way to start the postcast era with a solid start from Griffin Canning and a really solid start to the hitting performance for the Angels in tonight's game. Griffin Canning, we know he struggled in April, a 7.13 ERA in the month of April, but he has been so good in the month of May. 4 quality starts now with this one, and he kind of got screwed by Minute Maid Park a little bit in the first inning and really could have made this a spotty start for Griffin Canning. I'll call him 2 mini Minute Maid home runs. I think I saw somewhere that Kyle Tucker's first home run of the game in the first inning was 340 feet, just 96 miles an hour off the bat. And I think I saw that it would have only been a home run in Minute Maid Park. That left field, short porch. I'm not going to call it a joke, but I think anybody who watches AL West baseball knows that short porch can be, kind of a gimmicky part of this park. So Kyle Tucker hits one barely out, 340 feet on the first pitch of his at-bat in the bottom of the first inning. And then the next batter on the very next pitch is Yordan Alvarez, and Griffin Canning throws a solid pitch, a first pitch slider just below the knees coming in on Alvarez. You can't really complain about that. It's not in the zone. It's an off-speed pitch on the first pitch, trying to keep, Yordan Alvarez on his toes. And somehow he pulls one. I mean, I guess a little bit more of a home run, 358 feet, still not out in most parks. I think I read somewhere like 9 parks that gets out, but nonetheless, Griffin Canning sees an Angels lead of 2-0 disappear just like that because of 2 kind of fluky home runs, to be perfectly honest. And I hope I don't sound like a homer saying that. I think most people would agree it was pretty fluky. We will talk about how the Angels jumped out to a 2-0 lead in a little bit, but I just want to keep talking about the pitching performance from Griffin Canning, because after that could have easily spiraled and been, disappointed with how that game or how that first inning went. But Canning responded very well. He fell behind 3-0 actually to Alex Bregman in the next at bat. And at least I'm sitting there going, coming off the high of yesterday and what a win that was. And hopefully I get to talk about that later. But you come off that win and you score 2 runs in the first inning. You're feeling really good about things. And then those 2 home runs happen. Now it's 3-0 to Alex Bregman. Are the wheels going to fall off for Griffin Canning and spoil what's been a really solid May for him? But instead he responds really well, gets Alex Bregman out, and pitches really solid ball the rest of the game, obviously not giving up a run in the rest of his outing. I thought he was pulled a little too quickly, and that's something that I will get to in Ron's report card segment towards the end of this postcast. But Griffin Canning, very solid starting pitching performance, and it just makes that bullpen collapse hurt so much more, because the Astros they're a great hitting team, right? They always are every single year. Obviously, they've not been their normal selves in terms of wins and losses. They are heating up a bit, but coming into this game, the Astros an AL best, 5.5 runs a game in 22 games since April 27th. I know that's kind of a fluky kind of time period to pick, but I was watching the Astros, hometown broadcast actually while listening on the Angels radio, and got a lot of Astros stats out of that. So like I said, an AL best 5.5 runs a game in the 22 games since April 27th coming into this one. And the Astros also with the best team batting average in all of the American League at 265. So obviously a very daunting lineup. We know how good Kyle Tucker is, and boy, was he phenomenal tonight. Yordan Alvarez had a great performance as well. We saw what the bottom of the lineup did for the Astros last night, with Dubon having a huge performance, and we see what Singleton does today. We'll get to him and the bullpen, really struggling with him giving up that home run later on. But Canning, I just got to keep saying shout out to him for having a solid outing against a solid Astros lineup. But all for naught, because the Astros, you knew the offense was going to come, especially because it's the debut of me doing postcasts. You knew it was not going to be an easy game. You knew it was going to be stressful. And of course, the Astros eventually chase the next pitcher once the Angels pulled Griffin Canning. And once again, I did not like that decision to pull him at that point. I don't care about the pitch count. I don't care about, whatever the concerns were. But Fulmer comes in and he gives up a home run. And you're thinking, here we go. The 2-run lead for Griffin Canning just disappears just like that. I think I saw somewhere that I read a tweet that the bullpen is just, at this point, we know what's going to happen. It's like you don't even need to, get excited about an early lead. There's going to be runs given up by this bullpen, and it's just a matter of whether or not the lineup can make up for those struggles. Obviously, they did not do that enough tonight, but Fulmer comes in, gives up a home run, and then Garcia comes in, he gives up a home run. It's so disappointing to go from up 4-2 to down in this game because of bullpen struggles. I read another tweet. Clearly, you can hear I'm on Twitter a lot about, is it time? I think it was one of the Super Halo bros. Shout out to the Frisch brothers as well. I see you in the comment section. But I think it was one of them tweeting that it's time to bring in some of the younger bullpen guys, the younger bullpen arms, because we know this is a young team. We know this is a team that's not technically challenging for certainly not the World Series, probably not playoff baseball, really just trying to maybe stay around 500 for as long as possible. And we know that the Angels have had issues bringing up prospects too early, not letting them develop. But is it time to just say, all right, this bullpen is not good enough? If it's going to be a veteran bullpen, it needs to perform. And if it's not performing while being a veteran bullpen, maybe it's just time to give some young guys a chance. But we keep moving along. Matt Moore had a great performance. We know he's been struggling even after his performance where he comes in and has 2 strikeouts and does not give up a hit or base runner in his inning. His ERA is still at 6.62. We know it's been a rough start for him. But he comes in and shuts the door, and you're thinking, nice. Obviously that's what you're paid to do. You're a veteran. Hunter Strickland, who I'll just tell you right now, I'm from the Bay Area. I followed the Giants growing up. I know a lot of things about Hunter Strickland. Kind of a temper, obviously a huge arm, but he's been great. Scoreless inning from him. And we'll talk about the hitting. We'll talk about Kevin Pillar having, a home run there to give the Angels a lead and having that lead disappear. But we go to extra innings, and Carlos Estevez continues to be Carlos Estevez. And I know it's rough coming in extra innings with that runner on second base, but I don't think anybody, I know I certainly was not feeling good when Estevez comes out. He was so, even in the save yesterday, just so all over the place. Even when he's getting guys to swing and miss, it's not where he wanted the pitch to go. He does not look comfortable, and just the vibes are never good when he comes out. So Estevez comes out there in extra innings, and let's be honest, a very tough Astros lineup, like I said, especially when you have to face the top of the order and all of those guys. Jose Altuve actually kept off the base paths today, but Estevez, not good enough, and he blows this one. I mean, not blows it, but he does have the loss. Just in a tough position when you have first and second, you intentionally walk a guy, you have first and second. That the Angels, radio announcers were saying that Taylor Ward could have gotten that sac fly ball in there. Not sac fly, but yes, sac fly that moved the runners over. The Angels radio broadcasters were saying he could have got that ball in a little quicker. He looked a bit confused. I think it was not great enough, but I think either way, at least the runner on second base is advancing to third. And so then second and third with just one out, and Pena rips one to the right fielder, and that's the ball game. So the Angels bullpen blows it. A really good Griffin Canning start, and I'm going to keep saying it. Very proud of his ability to bounce back from those 2 runs in the first inning on 2 very cheap home runs, but it was not good enough. I see people in the comment section. Shout out to the Locked On Angels bros over there with their comment. Joseph, Arian, everybody in there. Happy Tuesday. What's going on? Obviously not the way we wanted to start the Locked On Angels postcast era. We were hoping for a win, of course, hoping for a game a lot more like yesterday, but good enough, energy, hopefully, from me, despite the loss. Plenty more to talk about on these first ever Locked On Angels postcast here on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel live. And of course, after the fact, wherever you get your Locked On Angels podcasts. We're going to talk about the Angels lineup. Pretty solid, at least at the beginning, relying on that home run ball. A lot of interesting numbers coming into this one about the Angels hitting home runs, slugging, a lot of extra base hits. But obviously it wasn't enough, and we're going to talk about what went wrong, especially later in the game when the lineup really started to cool down. We will talk about all that right after we take our first break. You're listening to Locked On Angels Postcast here on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel. This show is also brought to you by LinkedIn Sales. Now, shout out to LinkedIn. I just have to start with a personal anecdote. I use LinkedIn so much in my past. I actually had a former job where I worked for a recruiting firm, a small business, and we use LinkedIn all the time, whether it's the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which I'm about to tell you about, or the LinkedIn Recruiter platform, which I used as well. LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform for small businesses. And are you struggling to close deals? Because B2B selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, that's right, 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Once again, I use LinkedIn a lot as a student. I don't know if I've said this already, but I'm a senior at UCLA, obviously looking for jobs out of graduating in a couple weeks. So LinkedIn is great if you're looking for jobs, but of course it's great for small businesses. So right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial. And I got to say, 60 days, that's phenomenal. Normally, free trials, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days tops. But right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. Once again, you're listening to the Locked On Angels Postcast, the first ever Locked On Angels Postcast here live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel and after the fact on the Locked On Angels podcast feed. A quick shout out to the regular daily Locked On Angels podcast. If you're not familiar with Locked On, of course, the origins of Locked On was daily podcasts for every single team, your team every day. And the Frisch Bros, John and Mike, are fantastic every single Monday through Friday, coming out with daily podcasts about our beloved Angels. So, of course, I've got you right after the game with a live recap, but they will have you covered every morning, Monday through Friday. So, yes, shout out to the Locked On Angels podcast and the Frisch Bros. But with that being said, once again, the Angels fall 6-5 to the Houston Astros in extra innings. They fall to 0-3 in extra innings. All three of their extra inning games on the road. So, you know that's difficult being on the road in an extra inning format with the runner on second base. And of course, the fans on their feet make a noise, especially for a relatively young team like the Angels. That is a tough task. So they fall to 0-3 in extra inning games. Now I want to talk about the Angels lineup because for the most part, a positive performance from some of the Angels hitters, specifically at the top of the order with Nolan Schanuel really starting to heat up. That is so encouraging. We know what he is capable of, and he's really getting comfortable at the leadoff spot. Luis Rengifo staying red hot, Willie Calhoun staying red hot. We're going to talk about all that, and I have to start with a crazy stat that once again I saw on the Astros hometown TV broadcast while listening to the Angels radio broadcast. In the last 7 games, the Angels, with the last 7 coming into tonight, 13 home runs, first in Major League Baseball, and a .492 slugging, second in Major League Baseball. So with Mike Trout out, I think a lot of people were assuming this lineup was going to have its struggles, and of course, it has not been perfect. But tonight, and in the games leading up to tonight, those 7 games, one of the best teams when it comes to slugging and hitting home runs. And we got that very early once again tonight with Luis Rengifo going deep. I have to start with Schanuel once again. It just feels so good when the leadoff hitter looks confident. And Nolan Schanuel in the leadoff spot, starting to get more comfortable. I think coming into this game, yeah, here it is. He was 7 of 23 against lefties, obviously a very small sample size, with 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and a 9.41 OPS. Against righties, where he's primarily facing righties, a much larger sample size. This season, coming in tonight, just 219, 4 homers, 13 RBIs, and a 6.01 OPS. We know how much he struggled. We know he had that huge, long, stretch where he couldn't buy a hit. But lately, both yesterday and today in Houston, Nolan Schanuel starting the game the right way with the leadoff hit. And then Luis Rengifo comes up, and on the first pitch against Christian Javier, he gets a hanging slider and absolutely crushes it. I say absolutely crushing. It was only 373 feet. But based on the 2 home runs we saw on the bottom of the first inning, barely going 340, 373 is crushing it, all right? A couple numbers about Christian Javier coming into this game. I don't think people realize how deadly Christian Javier, the starting pitcher, for the Houston Astros, has been specifically at home. In his last 4 home starts coming into tonight, a .75 ERA, a .146 opposing batting average, a .88 WHIP, and in a ballpark that is not easy for pitchers, of course. We keep talking about it. I keep ranting about that left field short porch. But despite that, that's amazing numbers, of course. .75 ERA is phenomenal. And then it's just as impressive at home, specifically against the Angels. In his career, Christian Javier, 4-0 with a 1.65 ERA, 37 strikeouts to just 4 walks, which is pretty impressive as is, but specifically for him because he does struggle with walks at times. But 37 Ks to 4 walks in his career at Minute Maid Park against the Angels. So you read all those stats, and you're thinking, oh man, maybe the Angels are up for a rough one. But they chased Christian Javier, who in 2024 coming into today, 6 starts, 3-1 record, 3.23 ERA, a 1.24 WHIP, and I mean, the numbers keep speaking about it. Christian Javier is a very solid starting pitcher, but like I just said, Nolan Chanuel gets things started the right way, Luis Rengifo gets things started the right way, and the Angels are feeling good. I thought Javier was really struggling to locate that fastball. They were saying it on the Angels radio broadcast that the fastball was actually about 1.5 miles per hour slower than his average. I think he's normally around the 92, 93 range, and he was kind of below 91 miles an hour on that fastball. He also couldn't really locate it throughout the game, and he fell behind in counts. Either the Angels were kind of jumping on him on the first pitch, or he was falling behind in counts and walking guys, throwing pitches kind of all over the place, which is why the Angels really could have done more, even though they were able to score 4 runs against Javier. I talked about the Rengifo home run, and it's so great that he is staying hot, but then the Angels were not done against Javier. And in the top of the 4th, after Luis Guillermo continues to kind of be red hot in his own right, Zach Neto, who I think I read something, 304 with 5 home runs in his last 20 games. He turned a couple great double plays. He doubles in Luis Guillermo on a really nice hit that kind of had a weird bounce, and Guillermo was absolutely booking it from first base, able to score. Neto gets to third, and then Luis Rengifo eventually singles him in on a line drive. Shout out to all the people in the chat. I love seeing the comments from you all. Thanks so much. But yes, Luis Rengifo singles in Neto, and it's 4-2 Angels, and we're feeling really good about things. But as I've discussed already, the bullpen comes in and blows that lead. The Angels do score one more run thanks to Kevin Pillar, who he continues to have his own career resurgence for the Halos. It's kind of this fun combination of young guys, especially yesterday. We know about that historic performance yesterday from the Angels youngsters, 4 home runs from 4 players, 25 and younger for the first time in MLB history. But it's a fun combination of young guys like the O'Hoppys, like the Shanuels, like the Joe Adells, and the veterans like a Kevin Pillar, like a Rengifo, like a Willie Calhoun, guys that have been all over the place and are kind of finding a bit of a groove. So Pillar homers off the bullpen, gives the Angels a 5-4 lead. But then, of course, like I already discussed, they lose that. Am I satisfied with the hitting performance from the Angels? I'd say so, just because a very tough starting pitcher, especially at home, and you're able to chase him, get him out of there relatively early. There was a couple times that runners were stranded on base. Rengifo had a really, really, really boneheaded play getting picked off between second and third with first and second, and Willie Calhoun up. Already a big inning. This was in the inning where the Angels were able to score 2 runs, and it was 4-2. And you're thinking, hey, first and second, 2 outs, still maybe a chance to get more. And Rengifo gets picked off between second and third. A really disappointing play there from a veteran, a guy who needs to be smarter than that. And who knows, maybe that's an extra run that the Angels would have gotten that would have maybe prevented this game from going to extra innings, where the Angels eventually do fall 6-5 to the Astros to fall to 1-1 in the series in Houston. We're going to take a quick break. The first ever Locked On Angels Postcast. Thank you so much to everyone who is here so far. Please, 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 if you enjoy me even the slightest bit, hey, it's my first show. It's only going to get better from here. I can't lie. I'm nervous. It's the first show. But if you like me even the slightest bit, leave a like on the video, leave a comment, let me know how I'm doing. Hit subscribe so you can be notified every time I go live. I will be live, of course, tomorrow following the Angels game tomorrow against the Houston Astros. So please hit subscribe and follow me on Twitter. There, you see it there, Gavin Carlson _ on X/Twitter to keep letting me know what I did well and what I can improve on this Locked On Angels postcast. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to finish it up with the first ever Ron's Report Card segment. I think I have some interesting things to say about whether or not I'm encouraged by the managerial performance and looking at the Angels going forward. Once again, this is the Locked On Angels postcast live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. Once again, this episode of the Locked On Angels postcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. Now, I got to say, it's always fun when your partner and being the sponsor is a company you love, and I absolutely love PrizePicks. It's as if you like sports, you want to find any way to make viewing a sporting event more exciting, and PrizePicks is certainly that. It's the #1 fantasy sports platform in the world, especially in America, with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Now look, spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. And of course, in addition to baseball, we are in the middle of the NBA playoffs. I do not know who ended up winning that Celtics game today. Of course, I am worried about my Angels, but I'll have to see who won that game. But we are in the middle of the NBA playoffs, and you can get in on the NBA playoff action and win up to 100x your money. That's right, 100x your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. So how do you join me and 3 million other users on PrizePicks? You download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That is amazing. $100. Once again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB, completely lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. One final time, I'll let you know you are listening to the Locked On Angels postcast live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel, the first ever edition, first of many, and hopefully more exciting, more happy postcast coming off Angels wins. Now, I can see I'm already a little over time. This is supposed to be about a 30-minute show, but it's the first episode. I had to explain who I am. I had to explain what a postcast is, and it was a crazy extra inning game. So we'll go a little bit over. That's okay. But in the final segment, I want to introduce what will be a reoccurring segment here on the Locked On Angels postcast, and that is Ron's report card grading the managerial performance of Ron Washington in the game and kind of with his pregame lineup, his in-game adjustments, and kind of how we feel about the Angels going forward off of this game. And in terms of the pregame lineup and specifically the hitting lineup, got to give him a solid grade there. I'd say like a B or something like that, because specifically the top of the lineup is really starting to find its groove. And it was going to be interesting to see how Ron Washington would react to the injuries to, of course, Mike Trout, but also Anthony Rendon, and just seeing how he would manage that. Nolan Schanuel has been struggling so much, but I think a lot of people feel like he has the potential to be a solid leadoff hitter. He's obviously there now, and he's finding his groove. Luis Rengifo in the 2 finding his groove. Taylor Ward did not have a great outing, a great performance tonight, but the top of the Angels lineup, it was amazing yesterday. I mean, really, the whole lineup was amazing. But today, Schanuel 3 for 5. Rengifo 2 for 5, of course, with that home run and 3 RBIs. Ward is hitless, but Willie Calhoun 2 for 5. So the 3 of the first 4 hitters really finding their groove. And so I think you got to give Ron Washington credit for trusting a Willie Calhoun in the cleanoff spot, for trusting Kevin Pillar directly after him, who came up with that big home run. Obviously, we did not see what we wanted to see from Adele tonight, from Ohapi, especially after their performances yesterday. But in terms of the way the lineup looked, and how it performed, I think you give him a B plus, Ron Washington, for that. Now, in-game adjustments, I'm going to be a lot more critical. I think that certainly that played a huge role in this loss. Not only did I feel like Griffin Canning was pulled too early, but when the bullpen struggles the way it did, it makes that decision look a lot worse. And not only the decision to go to the bullpen, I know Strickland played well or pitched well. I know Matt Moore pitched well. But not only because of the way the bullpen looked today, but because of how bad it has looked. You got to trust your starting pitching a little bit more. Really, only those 2 fluky home runs were the only times that Griffin Canning looked poor. He looked really solid other than that, in my opinion, at least. And so relatively efficient on his pitches and everything. I would have liked to see him get to pitch a little bit longer. And of course, it costed them the decision to intentionally walk in the 10th. I know people will debate that. It obviously didn't work out because then the sac fly moves them both over and there's a base hit. I don't really know if it would have made a difference. I'm actually quite a fan. I'm a fan of intentionally walking the opening guy of the extra innings to get that force at third, that double play opportunity. I think it's a little different in this situation because you do have Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez coming up, and maybe you wanted the bases empty to potentially walk them instead. But those decisions ultimately contribute to this loss. So I think Ron Washington kind of has to get a D or something like that for in-game adjustments. Going forward, does this really change my hope, my faith in the Angels? I don't know. I thought, the Astros are a good team. They're a better team than their record shows. And I think the Angels were solid enough tonight to win, 45% of the time. And it was just one of those times where they were not able to get it done in extra innings. That's really all you can ask for a team like this, is to be in games late. And I think, as don't want to be moral victories guy, but the young guys being in games like this, it will always benefit them going forward. So with all that being said, I'm a little bit over time, but hey, it's the first ever Locked On Angels postcast, so I think that's okay. And I made it through. It was a crazy game, a hopefully crazy, fun Locked On Angels postcast debut. But once again, a couple things. A reminder to check out the regular daily Locked On Angels podcast with the Frisch Bros, the Super Halo Bros, John and Mike, on the Locked On Angels YouTube channel every single day, Monday through Friday. They will certainly talk about this game, a disappointing end to this game. And then, of course, tomorrow, the Angels back against the Astros once again. So directly after the game, I will be here on this Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel to break down, hopefully, what will be a win. Today, the Halos, our beloved Angels, fall 6-5 to the Astros in extra innings in Houston to even up the series at 1-1. Still a winning record against the AL West, and we will hang on to that. But thanks so much for listening and for watching. Please go ahead and leave a comment, a like, subscribe. Tweet me at Gavin Carlson _ and let me know how I did as well. And I will see you all tomorrow, hopefully after an Angels win. But for now, Halo Nation, Halo hopefuls, so long.